Call to order the regular City Commission meeting for the City of Dickinson for Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. Let the record show that all commissioners are present. We'll start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for attending this evening. First item up is the order of business. Mr. Dossinger, are there any changes to the order of business?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Commission. There are changes to the order of business. Underneath number 3, Administration and Finance, there'll be 2 additions. The first one will be letter E, Police Chief position. There'll also be another addition, letter F, RFP, Museum expansion. There will also be one deletion from the agenda this evening. That'll be underneath number 6, Public Works. The Houston Engineering Task Order will be removed.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Dossinger on the amended order of business? Not, I'd look for a motion on the amended order of business.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bear.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further discussion on the changes? Not all in favor of the changes, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item up is the consent agenda. Commissioners, are there any items on the consent agenda you wish to discuss? Hearing no discussion, I'd look for a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. President, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Soboluk. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Mrs. Soboluk,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Dr. Bear.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We'll move into administration and finance. First item up this evening, we have an introduction, and this is our new library director, and this will be handled by City Administrator Dossinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to invite our new library director, Danielle Kappel, to the podium, please. Just to give you a little bit of background, I'd like to take this time to introduce the new library director to the community and to the commission. Danielle Kappel is originally from Denver. Danielle has a bachelor's degree in history and a bachelor of science degree in history education. Danielle also has a master's degree in library and informational science from the University of Denver. Danielle has worked at the North Dakota State Library, and in 2015 became the middle school librarian at the Dickinson Public Schools. So I'd like to welcome Danielle to the city of Dickinson and to our community in her new role. So if the commission has any questions for.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome
Thank
aboard.
you. I'm
Anything
excited.
you want to tell us about yourself a little bit more beyond the educational background and everything? Or?
I'm excited, like Dossinger said. I was the middle school librarian for 7.5 years here in Dickinson, so I'm kind of excited to serve the community in a different way now, and I'm really excited to kind of jump in and get going, so yeah.
Well, great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Next item up this evening, we have the City of Dickinson Retirement Savings Plan, Third Amendment, and certification. This will be handled by Deputy City Administrator Carlson.
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, President and Commissioners. Before you is the certification, and it's a third amendment to our DC plan. So this is what the only retirement plan that it's affecting is our old defined contribution plan, which is the DC plan. And just to bring it short, is the third amendment to the city defined contribution plan includes an updated provision called the Secure Act. In December 2019, Congress passed the Secure Act allowing parents to withdraw up to $5,000 out of their IRAs or 401k. plans following the birth or adoption of a child without paying the early withdrawal penalty. This would only affect those employees that still have a defined contribution plan with the city. Staff is recommending this additional provision to be added to the City of Dickinson Defined Contribution Retirement Plan, and this would be effective as of January 1 of 2022.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Any questions from Mrs. Carlson on this amendment and certification? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second.
second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next item up is our Chapter 32 amendment, retirement. Oh, excuse me. We have a job description.
No.
No, it is the Chapter 32 amendment and retirement, and this is the first reading of our ordinance. Mrs. Carlson?
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. Before you is the red line of the Chapter 32 retirement of the municipal code. And the intention, the reason that this is being updated is that we are going into the new muni code, and department heads look into the municipal codes that pertain to their area. Mine is retirement. So in reviewing that, we realized that the intention was to close the DC plan from any new members as of January 1st, 2019. And those that were in the DC plan had a one-time option to move to the state North Dakota PERS plan. For those employees that chose to stay in the DC plan, we wanted to make it equitable in contribution. Hence, since the PERS plan was employer and employee contribution rate of 7%, we increased the DC plan to match that contribution rate. So it went from 5% to 7%. It was never noted in the, municipal code, and so it was just oversight of the municipal code. All the other paperwork was done. We have been paying the 7% for, since January 1st, 2019, and on that first payroll. So this is just to update the municipal code so we can go forward with it correctly. And then this would be ordinance number 022023, and staff is recommending that we do the correction to Chapter 32.
It should be ordinance 1768, I think.
Oh,
The other thing is resolution, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
1768. Yep.
I wrote down the wrong one.
Any questions, commissioners?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve with a second. Further discussion? Questions?
We'll have the public hearing at the next meeting? At the second
Yes,
reading?
public hearing, a second meeting.
Okay.
Yep. So I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman, second by Commissioner Sobeluk, if I'm correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions? Hearing none, we will vote. Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk,
Aye.
Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Dr. Bear.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Now we'll move on to the job description. And this is a seasonal events programming assistant. This will be handled by HR Director Nominuk. Welcome.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. This seasonal events programming assistant position is a new position to help our marketing and events director with programming and events that will take place throughout the year with our new Legacy Square. So some of the responsibilities and essential duties for this position would be to assist with setup and cleanup of special events equipment, signage, other equipment, to provide administrative support to the marketing and events director and other staff, to monitor events during weekend and evening hours, assist with social media postings, updating website calendars, assisting with loading and unloading of equipment for events, just a lot of different things. I think some of it will come up as we go along, as this is a new position. As I mentioned, this is a seasonal position. As far as education and experience, we're looking for someone who has a high school diploma or a GED, 6 months or related experience is what we're looking for, but not required, or an equivalent combination of that education and experience. We're looking for someone who has a driver's license and a minimum age of 21, due to the possibility of having alcohol at a lot of these events. This position falls in grade 11 and is a non-exempt position, and staff is looking for approval on this. Any questions?
Do we foresee this position transitioning to full-time because of winter activity at the town square?
I would look to Joel to maybe answer that. I think
I have a question. As I was reading these essential duties, it seems to me as there's only gonna be one person doing all these things. I mean, it sounds like when you're talking about chair setup and tents and some of this other stuff, are there gonna be other people helping too? And who would that be? And are they seasonal, or are they, I mean, where does that help come from?
so. The commission did approve a facility operator specifically for
Yeah.
to help out with the square. We are looking at possibly having one full-time or 40-hour-a-week seasonal employee, maybe a 20-hour-a-week seasonal employee. So there will be more than one person.
Okay, that's a lot of work for one
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, we approved those three facility operators with the understanding that one of them would be dedicated to the square.
Okay.
Well, and Mr. Walters, I think the commission and you would hope that we would have some community-minded individuals that would volunteer as well,
Absolutely.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, we're hoping for a volunteer base, and in the near future, we'll, start to put feelers out for that. But for right now, just the one position.
Okay. So I guess that's me telling people, if you want to get involved with the downtown square and activities down there,
We would
feel
welcome
free
it.
to contact Mr. Walters.
Any other questions for me?
Commissioners? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mrs. Nominick?
We did budget for this? Because I don't remember this.
This
being-
is seasonal. It's not like a regularly budgeted employee. Seasonal, they just kind of have a bucket of money that's set aside for seasonal staff.
Okay.
And Commissioner Frederick, there is money in there for the operations of the town square that was approved in the budget, because we didn't know what we would need. And so part of that was for if we would need a seasonal.
Okay.
Any further discussion or questions? Not, I'd look for a motion on this job.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
Second?
second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk,
Aye.
Dr. Bear.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. And Mrs. Nominick, you get to stay in place. You have
Yeah.
your monthly report from HR.
Yes, thank you. First up on our list is the library director. As you know, we hired Danielle Capel, and so we're very excited and happy to have her aboard as the library director. We had 3 librarian positions open up. We had been busy doing interviews, made some offers. We did fill one of those positions and did some onboarding this week with that individual. Had a couple other offers that were declined, so we'll get back out there and start working on getting those filled as well. Limited hour library assistant staff, looks like we made quite a few hires there. That's for the part-time limited hour. We have a planner position open. We've reopened it, and that position will close on the 14th, so we'll get going on interviewing for the planner as well. We have an engineering technician position that we had to fill. That position is in the interview stage at this point. For animal control, we did make a hire for that position, and she started this week. Communication specialist, we have several positions open. We were able to make one hire there. And we have a couple more to fill. We're in the interview stage for those positions as well. Kind of the same thing with police officer. We did have one hire for that position. We'll start towards the end of this month. And we are in the interview stage and testing and that sort of thing with those police officer applicants. Police chief, as you know, we will talk about that here in a little bit. That position, we did do the interviews this week. Had some great candidates for that position. Solid waste operator, we had 3 openings. We did hire one person internally from another solid waste position, which then opened up the scale service representative position. So we are looking at getting interviews going on that position and to fill those other 2 solid waste openings. Street maintenance operator remains to be a difficult position. We did have a hire on that one. That employee did start just recently. And we are going to continue working on trying to fill those other 4 positions. We did open up the seasonal snowplow operator to any of those folks that are certified, have CDLs, and have experience running that kind of heavy equipment, that are maybe laid off for the winter or looking for a part-time position. Haven't had much luck on filling that, but hopefully the weather will cooperate and we won't need it the rest of the year. Water reclamation facility operator, we did have one opening there, and that was filled internally with one of our utility operators. So then that opens up the utility operator. So we haven't had much luck there. We're going to reopen that position and try to get that filled. And that's all we have for open positions. Any questions on that?
Thank you, Mrs. Nominack. Any questions for Mrs. Nominack on our citywide positions?
Mr. President,
Mr. Oderman?
something I think is worth highlighting is, we had the solid waste operator that was hired from the scale service representative. I think interim chief Ciani hired a police officer out of dispatch a month or 2 ago. I'm correct on that, right? Or was it communications specialist? Yeah. And I want to give you guys just laud that, because it's really great. I think upward mobility is something that people look at as when they're choosing an employer, and we're finding those opportunities for our staff. So I think that's really exciting for the city to be encouraging and finding those opportunities for our staff to move up in the organization. And all of our managers and directors are doing a great job of that. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, that is a good point. We do have a lot of opportunity within the city. So sometimes people look at these positions and don't realize there's a lot more areas and more growth that they could find within us.
Oh.
Anything else, commissioners? Thank you, Mrs. Nominack.
Thank you.
Move into our item E then. Mr. Dossinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the commissioners for participating in the hiring process for a new police chief. It was a process that included 3 very strong candidates, 2 which were internal. The process included 3 interview committees, which consist of the executive team, law enforcement panel, and the community panel. The rankings from those committees were provided to Mayor Decker and I. Mayor Decker and I then interviewed the 3 candidates later that afternoon, while taking into consideration the rankings from the committees. It is my request to the commission at this time to hire interim chief Ciani as Dickinson's next police chief.
Thank you, Mr. Dossinger. Any questions for myself or Mr. Dossinger on this process? I too would like to thank all the community members, law enforcement, and commissioners that participated. Some days, or sometimes I should say, those days get long and grueling, and but it's a process we have to go through. We did have 3 very solid candidates that I think made every panel think a little bit differently, but in the end, Now Chief Siani, shine through, and I welcome him aboard as our next city chief. Welcome, Joe,
Welcome aboard again.
again.
Keep your speech to 5 minutes or less.
President, Commissioners, after that grueling process, I'm not sure I can have much left to give because I left it all on the table. I truly did. I am both humbled and honored to be entrusted this role to lead the fine men and women of the Dickinson Police Department into the future and serve this community in the capacity that they have grown accustomed to over the years. So I do appreciate it and the trust that you guys have given to me, and I hope I live up to the expectations. So thank you very much. So
Thank you
Appreciate
again. So,
Mr. President.
Mr. Oderman?
That's just advice to the, I mean, is that an action item for us? Like, do we have to have a motion in a second, or?
I think,
It is not. It is
Okay,
a-
all right.
It is a civil service position.
I just wanted to
right,
make sure
yeah,
that
civil
we-
service, and
So it
yeah,
is, it's,
Mr. Dossinger will start with the process, what, you know, there is hiring process and, just some of the other administrative stuff that needs to be done to move him into the position.
I maybe
It
should
is-
have asked that question
is,
before
yeah,
I
with the
started the
civil-
round
yeah.
of applause there before.
Yeah. All right, and then the last thing, we have a presentation for an RFP museum, and Mr. Furman.
Good evening, President Decker, Commissioners. I am here tonight to speak in relation to the possible expansion of Dickinson Museum Center. Specifically, I'm bringing forward a recommendation of the committee charged with reviewing the proposals generated by architectural firms in response to our RFP. The city's request for proposals for preliminary design services generated proposals from 4 North Dakota-based architectural firms, 3 of whom were asked to present this past Monday, February 6th. The review committee consisted of members of the museum advisory boards, city commissioners Frederick and Bear, who act as city liaisons to those boards, and senior museum staff, paleontology curator Dr. Denver Fowler, history curator Jessica Stratton, and myself. The firms presenting were EAPC Architects Engineers, Bartlett and West, and GT Architecture. The proposals were comparative in scope of work, and bids ranged from $14,800 to $65,000. After extensive discussion and agreement without dissent, the committee recommends that the city contract with GT Architecture of Dickinson at a cost of $14,800 for the following deliverables: a master plan, floor plan concepts, exterior 3D rendering of the proposed master plan, costs and budget estimates, PDF files of the final master plan, and this contract also includes all in-town travel associated with the project. I'm here to try to answer any questions you may have, and
Thank you, Mr. Furman. Any commissioners, any questions on the RFP?
Mr. President.
Mr. Oderman?
Mr. Furman, why the broad range in the bids? Was that outlined in the proposals at all?
No, there was no outline on what the budget was. 2 of the firms came in very tight at the low end, and the other one, I think, surprised everybody at how expensive it came in. We even double-checked that what they were proposing, we wanted to make sure we were looking apples to apples.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Carlson followed up on that for me. And basically, they were charging 4 times as much for the same services.
Okay. And then maybe this is a question for Mr. Dossinger. Maybe you can answer it, but are we pursuing construction manager at risk eventually on this project? And are we in the timeline in order to do that? Because I know that in the past, when we've talked about other projects, according to Century Code, there's a certain time that you have to actually initiate those conversations to actually be allowed to use a construction manager at risk. And so Is that something that we're pursuing on this, or?
Yes, those are discussions that I'll have to have with Mr. Furman and
Okay.
also with GT Architecture moving forward. And
Okay.
yes, that is something that we would be interested in moving forward with.
Okay. Okay, because this is a big project, and it's,
Potentially, yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So, I was thinking down the same lines, and I feel like we approved something too quickly last time on the downtown square, that we weren't able to proceed with that then. We had to follow through with the
Correct.
commission approving everything. And so tonight, I would be hesitant to approve that unless we know for sure we can approve this and still go with the construction manager at risk.
Well, at this time, we only selected the architectural firm. There has been no discussion as far as who the actual contractor is.
Okay.
With this process. It's an RFP for design at this
Okay,
point in time.
so this is an okay step
So
without that.
Strictly preliminary
Strictly
design.
preliminary design, so obviously we'll have to finalize the design and then have those discussions as far as the contractor options moving forward with that.
So I think the CRM would only come in if we give approval for bid documents. I mean-
Okay,
Okay, sure,
So-
yeah.
sounds good.
I mean, if we approve a design and we go forward with bid documents, I think the CRM would have to be brought in prior to that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just conceptual designs. It's not like
Yeah.
where they're getting into like, hey, this is where this bolt goes and this is where this beam goes, things like
Well,
that.
they'll tell us where to go with things like that.
I mean, I think Mr. Furman would agree. We had three very good proposals, three very good presentations. I think all the firms did a good job. It just, I agree with GT. They did a really good job. They had some initiative to put some preliminary thoughts in a design together to show us, prior to during the conversation, so.
Great.
I think they were a good choice. I did walk out before they made their decision, because I said I'd want to be surprised tonight, so.
All right, any other questions, commissioners? Not, we have a recommendation by Mr. Furman. I'd look for a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the GT architecture for the project.
I second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Frederick, seconded by Commissioner Bear, on the recommendation to approve GT Architect for this preliminary design and conceptual renderings. And then we'll also there are some deliverables, some PDF files and such. So, any further discussion?
Any idea how long that process will take, the preliminary?
I would imagine we would really like to be done before June. This part of the project depends a lot on in-depth feedback from both our advisory board members and museum staff. And Dr. Fowler, June 1st, he wants to be headed to the field, and he's hard to tie down.
Mm-hmm.
When you get him up at the field, you can't really get him on the phone very often. Sometimes if he stands in the doorway of his trailer, you can get a signal, but it's kind of sketchy. So we would hope that we'd be done well in advance of that.
I think most of the firms were at a 4 to 5 month timetable for this, if I
Along that
remember right.
line.
Yeah.
Commissioner Frederick, I think the reason you left was because it was so hot in that room. You left the rest of us in there.
That could be
fried.
too. It was pretty stuffy in there.
Yeah, and he just got back from Florida and he's hot all of a sudden. Okay, any further questions or comments for city staff? If not, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Dr. Bear,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
very much.
It is 5 o'clock, so we will move into our public hearing for a rezone request for Red Rock Ford. This is going to be presented by City County Planner Josephson. And this is the first reading.
This is the first reading. Thank you, President Decker. Commissioners, Steve Josephson, and they're now calling me interim planner for the city. What you have before you is a proposed rezoning of a 42.99 acre lot. The primary reason the applicant is requesting a rezoning is it's an auto dealership. Red Rock wants to move to that location. And under the current zoning, the way that it's split, part of the property where they want to place this does not permit auto services, so they want to expand the general commercial portion of it over to the east, so that would be where they would relocate. And then also they plan to have a well service company and then have some vacant lots that they plan to market. Just to let you know, there's a companion final plat that's appearing in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission this February, next week. And the plan is to bring that along with the second reading of this to the city commission and try to we'll get both of those together as soon as possible. Both the Planning and Zoning Commission and development staff recommend approval of the proposed rezoning. I don't have the ordinance number in front of me, but it's recommended approval, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Josephson. Are there any questions for Mr. Josephson on ordinance 1769?
So it's a rezone from general commercial to general industrial, or the other way around?
It's actually, we're just doing it the whole property, but the portion that they want to rezone, I believe is limited industrial right now, and it would expand to the to the east.
Okay, because what we've got in front of us says 42.99 acre parcel from general commercial to general industrial.
That's a portion. We're just describing the whole lot.
Oh, okay,
zoning
sure.
on the whole lot. It's just
Okay.
easier to do it that way instead of trying to say, well, this portion of this property is going to go to this. You know, we just call out all the zonings on the whole lot.
Okay.
Are any other questions for Mr. Josephson? Not, this is a public hearing. Would ask if anyone from the public has any questions for the city commission or Mr. Josephson on this rezone request. Again, this is ordinance 1769. If you have any questions, please come forward, state your name and your concerns or questions. If you're watching online, 701-456-7006. Again, does anyone have any public comments on this rezone request? Anyone from the public? Seeing and hearing no one has any comments or questions on this rezone request, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, what is your desire on this rezone request?
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second?
second by Commissioner Sobeluk. Any further discussion or questions for city staff on this rezone request? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Dr. Bear.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next item up this evening is our public comments. Not on the agenda. You have any public comments, please come forward. State your name. If you have any items you wish to discuss that are on the agenda or not on the agenda, please come forward at this time.
Hello, Commissioners. Jeff Fitzik, Dickinson City resident. I wasn't at the last commission meeting, and I'm kind of sorry about it. I heard about the logo change afterwards from a variety of people, and the response to me usually ranged from, quite frankly, dismayed to disgust about the whole process. And so I was kind of happy when the Dickinson Press ran an article on it. I was able to read a little bit about it, but unfortunately I didn't see any evidence of the logo. So I finally looked it up, and it made me more perplexed at that point than I had been previous to that. So I guess I have a couple of questions just to sort out what went on with that. I didn't realize there was some sort of process going on to change this in the first place, you know, and then it just happens in one city commission meeting. But aside from that, according to the press article, Mr. Decker, you indicated that we had to change this logo to be ready for the Theodore Roosevelt Library. Some quote to that effect from you. Well, we've got a cowboy on a bucking horse, and when I finally saw the logo, it doesn't say Theodore Roosevelt Library to me, so I was kind of trying to wrap my head around how you were equating that process, as were other people I talked to after that point. So, and then I have one other issue that came out of that too, so if you could help me out.
Well, one, the logo was never the city's. It was the Dickinson CVB's,
Okay,
and they stopped using it a few years ago. And I don't necessarily equate the city of Dickinson with a bucking horse. That is also the logo for the Kildare High School and the University of Wyoming, exact same logos. We need a uniqueness to the brand that is Dickinson. That's why we hired a marketing director
yep,
to come in to brand us. We've never been branded before. We've been known as the Queen City. We've been the Western Edge, which nobody could ever explain to me what we're the edge of. Western edge of what? So with Mr. Walters aboard, we were looking at a method of rebranding the city to prepare ourselves for the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. And the process, while I understand, for some might be, well, we could add public input. We did have a work session, and if there was a concern on any commissioner's part, they could ask for it to be tabled. We have never denied tabling any item that has come up on the city commission. That request was never made.
well, I'm not really concerned about a commissioner or anything, I'm concerned about the public with the input. And like I said, I hadn't heard anything about any kind of a logo change, and I missed the city commission meeting, and all of a sudden it's done. So I guess that's my line of thought on it. I appreciate your response on it. I still don't quite connect the dots between this new logo and Theodore Roosevelt. Nothing about that says that to me. Perhaps it does to you. That's fine. But thank you for your response.
Mr.
I
President,
appreciate it.
Mr. Fitzek, I would just add that over the course of the last couple of years, we've been talking a lot about signage and, you know, like the entrance signs and things like that around the community. And I think that's when this conversation really kind of picked up steam, is what do we want those to look like? What do we want our branding of the city to look like? And I understand where you're coming from, where it seems like maybe it was a little accelerated. But I would say that I think this is something that city staff has been thinking about for a long time. And Mr. Walters coming on board as the marketing and events coordinator for the city, I think probably did accelerate it, because we have somebody that has an expertise in that. So I think that's part
And I
of
appreciate
this.
that
Yeah.
explanation. But
Yeah.
again, the public
Sure.
is largely left out of that whole process, you know, until all of a sudden, boom, it's on the agenda, and then it happens. So that's kind of my
Well,
point there.
we have
So-
discussed multiple times, and I've brought this up, and I don't know who's paying attention to this, but I've asked for ideas on creating a city seal and a city flag. You know how much response I've gotten from the general public? You can probably guess, Mr. Fitzek.
Probably not very much.
0.
Next time, bring it to Southwest Patriots and I'll spread it around.
Sure thing. But that's been in discussion now for almost 2 years. I have had no one come up and champion that idea. No one has stepped forward and said, I would like to design a city flag or a city seal. I think our city seal is I mean, that is something you buy at your local business store. It cannot get any more generic than that. And our city flag, I've had multiple requests over the years and to, you know, from different municipalities and stuff, kind of do this exchange thing. You send a flag from students. We don't have anything like that. And matter of fact, that nice big blank spot that you see in front of this building right here, that's where I want to see our seal. Whoever designs it, whoever comes up with an idea.
Well, we've got a new artist gallery in town. Perhaps you want to
There we go.
approach the art community
No.
for input and have them provide some options.
And I see the concern that came forward again, but every meeting is published, every item, and you know this
Yep.
for certain.
Yep.
Everything
I
is
said
on
I
that.
missed it. I
Yeah.
did.
And
No.
it just seems that we all of a sudden have a lot of concerned people that come out of the woodwork after the fact because of a paper article, and it be whatever it is. For me, I just, you know, when the CVB stopped using the bucking horse, the discussion started years ago to move away from that. With prior city administrators, we just never had anybody on board that took charge. They wanted to, and most of the changes are generated either by the public or by city staff. There's very little of our ideas that really truly get enacted upon. Hence, there's no shooting range on the south side. So I'm just saying, you know, that's how things work. And now we have somebody in there that's marketing, wants to rebrand, is taking charge. We got this new square going up, which needs logos and everything. You want something to sell the city to people as they're coming through here. We're going to be, regardless of how individuals feel in this city, all these tourists are going to be staying here. There is no place to stay in Medora. There's no place to stay in Belfield. There's no place in between. They're going to be staying here. Hence why we do things like dinosaur museums and sport complexes, and hopefully there'll be an arts and science center in town, and other multiple things that enhance our quality of life, but also make us attractive for people to stay there more than one night when they visit the Theodore Roosevelt, you know, Presidential Library. Maybe they want to hang around. Maybe they even want to live here, because we could use a few employees. I can tell you that right now. Not only the city, but a lot of, you know, business operators. We need to make ourselves attractive to people outside of North Dakota, and this will go along with the marketing campaign. I mean, we're gonna start a campaign to go out and look for. We can't generate enough, even though Mr. Oderman, you know, says kudos to hiring within staff. We're just cannibalizing. We just move one up and open another. And we can't generate enough, even with the success of our fire academy and our police academy and all the other things, we can't generate enough workers, you know, from within. We need to increase the base, and that goes with marketing and branding the city and going out and putting a fresh face on things and going after individuals. I just had a conversation last week with a representative from the hospital. They cannot find people to come here. So that affects all of us. If there is not enough staff, then what they rely on is, and John can correct me if I'm wrong, locum? So those are generally doctors and nurse practitioners and individuals. They come here for 2 weeks or a month, they work. Do they have any attachment? Zero, right? They come, they do their job, and they leave. What we can hope is that we put on a good enough face that they might say, you know, where I live right now, I want to come here, right? They might not change their, the way they do their business, because it's very lucrative right now to be that hired gun.
And I would say it directly impacts your healthcare costs.
Right.
Because
Yeah, it does.
you're looking at three
So,
times.
I mean, what we have to do is go out and put the best face on our city, and that means right now rebranding it and going forward.
Well, I appreciate that, and I dare say it's not just the hospital in the city. I'm a small
Yeah.
business owner.
Right.
It's everybody in town
Yes.
Yep.
who runs a business is feeling the same pinch. And I'd add one additional thing. It's a far better problem to have than the city situation with employment when you and I grew up in this town.
Yes.
Where you couldn't find a decent paying job. So I understand the conundrum. I understand the problem. For the record, personally, no offense, Joel, I liked what we had before. I know a great number of people who liked what we had before. I have not yet seen anybody who saw the new logo who expressed that they liked it better as representing Dickinson. So I just wanted to communicate that to you guys.
You just need to go to a different coffee group.
I probably do, so I gotta quit hanging around the cemeteries. So,
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, if you're talking to people at the cemetery, Jeff, that
Dr. Bear, you may want to assist Jeff. So,
Mr. President and Commissioners, if I can just have one brief second here. Thank you, Jeff, for your comments and for your feedback. I do appreciate that. And I would encourage anybody who has further questions on this to come visit with me. I would love to walk you through some of what the planning was, some of what the thought process was behind that. And I will also redirect you to last week's City Commission meeting where there was a presentation outlining. Good. But I am happy to visit with you further, explain what some of the details that you see even in the logo might be referring to, and then remind you that the brand is broader than just a logo. That's just one visual piece to it, and how that might affect and represent our community moving forward. So, thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Good evening, Peggy O'Brien. I would just like to offer a suggestion when you were speaking about the city seal or flag of perhaps making it a type of contest within the city. Send it out to the college, to the high schools, to the service groups, and that gives them a sense of belonging and a buy-in on what the city is doing. And there are a lot of very talented people in this community. And I think you'd be surprised. Unfortunately, you have to attach some type of prize, if you will, to it in order to get people involved. But I think if you did that, I think you'd be very pleased with the results.
we have, Peggy, we have brought up as a project for our youth commission to possibly
Yes.
hold a contest involving the college and citizens and such, and to get all the input. You know, it's in the process right now. So we're just,
Great.
sometimes it's slow. Government's slow sometimes, and even to our frustration, sometimes it just moves at a slow pace, so,
Well, I'm pleased. We're all
Yep.
on the same page.
yep. Well, thank you.
I would just note on the youth commission point that you made there. We did have a meeting a couple weeks ago to talk about the youth commission, and we are kind of coming at that from a different angle. Mr. Dossinger is going to come to meetings and remind the youth commission of things like that, so that's on the front burner, and then also actively solicit feedback from them on different things. So I think that'll be a good change, because in a lot of ways they've been kind of running their own show with some commissioner feedback, but we're trying to be a little bit more from a mentorship standpoint there. So
Okay. Anyone else from the public?
Hello, everybody. My name is Mickey Thompson from Dickinson, and I run a Facebook page for the Southwest North Dakota homeschoolers. And I would just like to second
What was that? What the?
a Facebook page for the Southwest North Dakota homeschoolers. It's the
Homeschoolers,
homeschoolers
okay.
all in Southwest North Dakota. We get our activities. We do, suggestions, things like that. What Peggy was saying, I think, is a great idea. As you were talking about that, Mayor Decker, I was just like, we need to get our youth involved. And so maybe you guys can even advertise it on social media, because that's where our younger crowd is. So maybe just a suggestion
Yep.
from that.
And
Thank you.
Joel's here to listen and take all those and pocket those, and he's the promotion guy now, so, but no, we'll take all that under consideration. You know, love to hear the feedback from citizens. A lot of times we're sitting in here and it's just an echo chamber because it is empty, and unless we want to, you know, change a truck route or do something like that, then we can pack the room in.
So I don't know if Joel has had this meeting yet, but he is advising a group of youth commissioners on branding of the youth commission, and I think that's kind of a natural thing that you can add to the agenda for that meeting, so.
But I think any input, I mean, there are very talented artists. I mean, anybody went to the fundraiser for that group that night and saw what was on display and the amount of money that was donated and used to purchase some of that original artwork. It was amazing. I'm really looking forward to that group coming forward again and helping. I know they're energized. Some of them are snowbirds, so you lose a little bit of traction in the wintertime. They go south, the most vocal of that group. So when they get back here in the spring, I can see them firing it back up. And I think it's something that we've lacked in the community. We have a lot of great sport venues and other recreation type things, but we need to have that arts and science facility also to promote that aspect of our community, because we you know, if you really think about it, the innovation that has come out of Southwest North Dakota, and especially Dickinson over the years, just the people that grew up here and what they've done, and what products they've brought forward to not only our community but across the world, is just astounding for a city our size. So I think we should be proud of that and put that on display and promote that every day. So looking forward to that. So anyone else? This is not my comment time, but it's turning into it. So anyone else, public comments? Not on the agenda, or on the agenda if there's items. Okay, I don't think we're ready for adjournment yet. The public comment section will close, and we will move back to, we have no reports this evening from fire or police. So we'll move into community development services, and the first item up is a KLJ task order for the 2023 road maintenance project. This will be handled by Engineering and Community Development Director Skluzjak.
Good evening, Mr. Commissioners and Mr. President and Commissioners. Originally, KLJ had a task order in place for some basically some concept-related information gathering and whatnot for our project coming up this spring. And once we established the scope of work and our official plan forward, this task order amendment to the original task order is now being presented for professional services consisting of preliminary engineering, design, bidding, and construction administration associated with the 2023 road maintenance project, and project number 202301. So total project, total engineering estimate for this amendment to the task order is $85,000. That's on top of the original task order of $17,500. So total task order amount is $102,500.
Just a quick question for me. We're dealing with numbers this large on, it seems we, do we put this out for RFP for engineering services?
On this specific project, it had been out to RFP a couple of years ago, but not specifically for this task order. that is something, I believe the dollar amount is 200,000 where it requires RFP, and it, regardless of that dollar amount, though, I would ultimately recommend in the future that we move in that direction. Just hear out what the opportunities are, what ideas other firms have, and somebody might have a better idea than what we even have internally. So.
Okay. Yes, I would encourage that. So I know this is kind of a running task order and we just keep amending it, but I think at one point we need to probably look at putting that out for bid again.
Mr. President,
Mr. Oderman.
I have a question along those same lines. What is the hourly rate? I mean, I'm sure it varies based on who's doing what work, but.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a varying hourly rate structure in place.
Because I just looking at this, these are very round numbers. I mean, like with 00 at the end, and like very rarely does my paycheck come out with 00 on the end. And so if we're going off of an hourly rate here, yeah, I struggle with, I mean, it's kind of just like a really strong estimate that will not exceed this. Do we ever have these that come in under?
I would have to look at specific facts in those cases. Some of the historical documentation, you got to dig into each individual file and some of those kind of things. And again, that's something that we're looking at improving with our capital improvement project editor, more of a program level approach towards management and visibility. With that being said, though, I think it's a pretty common way to approach from an estimating standpoint of rounding the numbers. And then I think the other aspect is that is more of a not to exceed number. So it's our job now to control and manage them as a vendor for us on our behalf, supporting us with technical services, but nonetheless, we control the scope, schedule, cost, and those kind of things. And so it's direct oversight and just really pushing things forward. And that's something that even to where we got to this point, internally we took the right steps on evaluating which streets have been paved in which years, and then at that point, what requires crack sealing and then the chip sealing of that pavement, rather than just handing over that entirety of a scope and saying, you figure it out for us and let us know what you want us to do. So.
Yeah. Well, and I want to make it clear, I'm not like accusing anybody of doing anything untoward or anything like that. Sometimes I think about the questions I used to have when I was like out in the gallery or watching meetings online, and that was one of the questions that I had is like, you have kind of like a pie in the sky number that is just kind of a catch-all, but it's on hourly rates, and but that's a good explanation in regards to now it's our job to manage the project. So. Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions on this task order?
I'd move to approve.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Our next item up is the 15th Street West District bid approval. Mr. Kalujak?
Again, good evening, Mr. President, Commissioners. The 15th Street West project, this is part of the district development and the extension of 15th Street. This was a project that had moved forward. I believe it was approved sometime last year, and part of that was a commitment in the development agreement to for the city to share up to not to exceed $450,000 in the development or the extension of 15th Street. And bid opening took place earlier this week. The low bid was. Yes, I apologize. The vicinity map wasn't wasn't put up earlier, but the low bid was identified, and we recommend approval on this to Cordova Construction.
How many feet is this again? I'm really
I don't
throwing
have
some
that right.
curveballs at you here.
I apologize, I don't have that right in front of me.
Okay.
I think it's in the bid tabulation. I'm looking at it real quick here. How many linear feet? So. I know.
I thought I had seen it.
Yeah,
but-
I thought I'd seen it too.
I can get back to you on that.
Well, I mean, good ballpark here with like the curb and gutter and how much it is. I mean, that just.
I'll just say about 700 feet,
Yeah, okay.
500 to 700, somewhere in there.
And this is hopefully a future continuation of the 15th Street through that quarter of land, and then hopefully we can link it over, work with NDSU and link it through their land over to 30th. It would make a nice little bypass there and then a connector. And to that point, this is kind of on the side. Anybody that's driven on 15th lately, that road's probably going to need some major work shortly too. So hopefully that's part of the project, our road maintenance project this year, or at least by next year. So.
Well, and I something I'd like to highlight here is, I mean, that's almost $1,000 a linear feet. I mean, and I mean that's
curb
a
gutter.
significant investment, and
It still will not be the most expensive road in Dickinson.
yeah.
It'll be hard to top the one out by the hub there. I think that's the most expensive road ever.
But I think
Maybe
it
in the
highlights
state of
how
North Dakota.
expensive development is right now.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh. That's why you're not seeing
Yeah.
much going on. The input costs are out of this world right now. That's about 1,400 feet of curb and gutters, so you divide that by 2, that'll give you a pretty rough.
Yeah, yep.
So, yeah. And it is nice to see that something like the district is proceeding, even with the costs. But any major developments, I think, are going to be paused for a while.
Well, and we got creative on this one, and I think we have to be willing to get creative. If somebody comes forward with a good idea, we have to be willing to see what we can do to help maybe offset some costs here or there. Because I think we did something that's going to ultimately be a good thing for the city. I mean, long-term property tax projections on something like this development, that makes sense financially for the city, and yeah, we can't stand in the way of development. So.
Just remembering back 10 years ago, I mean, the curb and gutter per foot price is like triple what it was then. And that's 10 years ago roughly, so.
Okay, any other questions, commissioners, on this bid approval? Not, I look for a motion.
I'd move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Soboluk,
Second.
second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We have a monthly report.
Again, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of the Engineering and Community Development Team. Jumping ahead. So for the Building and Code team, as you can see, there's a number of actual permits that have been paid and picked up, both city and county, and then also looking at the total fees for those permits, again, that have been paid and picked up. Although the number of permits are down slightly from the same time last year, ultimately the total number of fees are up quite significantly. I think there's been a number of reasonably large homes and other buildings that have been permitted under that small number, and may or may not be able to, correlate that to some amount of inflation. In regards to our planning and zoning team, so just in the month of January, we had 3 of our pre-application meetings, and those is what I've discussed before as kind of our holistic development view, all departments involved, and looking at the presentations from the applicants, allowing them to ask questions, provide feedback on what it is that they're looking to do, and then providing a single team-driven letter in response to what their application request is, and ultimately the rezone application that you guys reviewed earlier, that was actually our first ever pre-application meeting that we had, and I'm happy to say that that's moving forward, and looking forward to hearing that final plat and the rezone in the near term here. As our HR director, Dominic, had presented earlier, so the planner position was reposted. That was originally posted back in November of 2022. We reposted it earlier in January, and later on in January, we have a slated time, later on in February here, we have a slated time for interviews for that position. Right now, there's a small number of applicants, but we'll keep our fingers crossed and stay hopeful on that. Related to engineering, so one thing that we just found out about before, or found out just after we presented this or posted this for the commission agenda, but I had explained some time ago last fall that we had submitted for the transportation master planning. There was a grant through the Federal Highway Administration. Friday, we received a notification from the Department of Transportation that we were actually awarded that, and so there'll be some information provided here in the near term. And part of the goal with that was to bundle together not only the transportation master planning, but then the comprehensive plan update. Both of documents are either at or greater than the 10-year mark or somewhere around that. So they're out of date, and at the time that those were prepared, it was a pretty challenging time forecasting population growth and some of those kind of things. So there's definitely some information needed to be updated in both of those documents. So look forward to moving forward with that. Projects that are out to bid for the spring of 2023. So we're working hard on all of these, pushing them to the finish line. The annual road maintenance, that was the task order for KLJ that you just approved. Dickinson South Cemetery. The Legacy Square parking lot, that's the parking lot that staff utilizes. We've pared down that scope of work, and we'll be bringing that forth in the near term. Working with City Administrator Dossinger on talking about some of the needs versus wants on that and those kind of things. And then ultimately the water main and the lead service line replacement project, that's also ongoing, and we anticipate getting that out to bid in the near term here. Projects that are underway. The Dickinson Drainage Erosion Repair, that's that project you guys approved the easement, I think, last commission meeting, and near the Holiday gas station off of Museum Drive. We had what I've oftentimes referred to in my career as a construction readiness review. We met with the contractor and a couple of the engineering firms on that project. We'll be bringing a task order forward with the last engineering firm, in that case, in the near term, hopefully at the next commission meeting. But working with them to move things forward, evaluate who's actually doing what, when, and who needs what information at what time to make sure everything is fully prepared. So as soon as the weather is just right, as far as some of the snow has melted, but we don't have a bunch of runoff in that drainage channel, then we'll be moving forward. And we need the warmer temps for the shotcrete material for that project. Legacy Square, that's a project that City Administrator Dossinger is actually managing. I've been supporting from both a technical and non-technical standpoint, and moving things forward, making decisions, and keeping the schedule and cost in mind there. So,
Mr. Fitzik, you see number 2 on there, right? Yeah. Okay.
certainly a very important function to our team, Geographical Information System, or GIS. Just want to highlight some of the information, and I don't ever want that to be lost as far as the availability of information to the public. It's right on our website. There's land-related information, streets, utilities, zoning, and also some of the FEMA floodplain mapping. I think it's, again, I would stress that this is underutilized data and inconsistently used even within staff, but also all the information, again, to the public that's readily available at their fingertips. So encourage everybody to go to the website, utilize the information that's available.
Yeah, you start messing around with that in there, you can go down a wormhole real quick, just digging. There's a lot of information in that GIS system. I mean, it is amazing what is all compiled there. So I would encourage everybody to explore that a little bit.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And on top of that, something to keep in mind, I guess, is that the information that's available in there, that historically had been, people had funneled through a series of different paper documents trying to find this information and gather it together, what is now ultimately at our fingertips, just a click away. Helps things significantly from an efficiency standpoint for utility locating, public works staff in some of their operational aspects, and then from an engineering standpoint, planning and forecasting projects. So it's critical information and of very, very great value. So with that being said, any questions?
Any questions for Josh? Thank you. We'll move into Public Works. We don't have anything from planning or building and code enforcement this evening. So Public Works, the first item up is we have a water reclamation facility tractor lease, and this will be presented by Utilities Manager Zastapel. Welcome.
Thanks. Good evening, President Decker, Commissioners. I'm here seeking approval for a 3-year contract for our tractor lease for the water reclamation facility. It's for $28,126. It's currently for our for the 2019 380 Magnum tractor that we currently have now that we've been leasing. We're just renewing the contract. This was renewed by legal. Or this was reviewed by legal, and it's also been approved in our 2023 budget. So it's just that it's just a larger amount, and I wanted to go in front of you guys. Just want to let you know I have looked at other tractors. We were looking at new ones. They are changing the way they're leasing. They're going to start going through Sourcewell. So for the same tractor, for a brand new one, we're looking at, it's a 3-year lease is $63,000, so they're greatly increasing the amount. So we're also looking at different ways of handling the land applied sludge that we do use the tractor for, and so we're just evaluating that right now. But
Thank you, Mrs. Zastapel. Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Zastapel, I was just wondering, and you kind of answered it a little bit at the end. What do you use this tractor for?
yeah, right now this is part of our operations. So all the biosolids that are the sludge that is collected from the wastewater treatment is collected into 2 storage tanks up to 4 million gallons. This is all land applied into the fields that are right next to the water reclamation facility, and it's a main part of our operation. So
I did actually look up this bad boy, and they're not cheap.
they're not, no.
Even ones that are 10-year-old, they hold their value. So you're right. This is a very expensive tractor.
Yep.
So, okay. Thank you.
You talk to a farmer, every tractor's expensive.
Well, the ones that we were looking at now, they're at 500,000 plus. So,
Yeah.
and this was all quotes back in 2022. Inflation went up more, so
Okay. So I see here first payment's $28,126 due
Yeah,
on
it's
March 1st.
yes,
Okay.
and it's for 3 years.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners, comments? Not, I'd look for a motion on this lease agreement.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second?
Second by Commissioner Sobeluk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sastel.
Thank you.
The Houston Engineering Task Order was pulled.
That is
so-
correct. Mr. President?
Yes.
If we could circle back to underneath Administration and Finance, under letter E, Police Chief position, I apologize. I missed a line in Dickinson Municipal Code 212055 where it had discussed key personnel in there. I had missed that it says it's appropriate for the city administrator to make a recommendation on hiring that is then approved by the city commission. I apologize. I missed that
Okay.
line. So at this time, I am recommending to the commission to hire interim chief Joe Ciani to the Dickinson Police Department.
All right.
I'll move to approve city staff recommendation.
I second.
We have a motion to approve with a second. Any discussion? All in favor? State aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Unanimous.
Thank you. I apologize for that.
I'm glad I asked the question.
Yes.
We would have had to ask for Joe's first paycheck back.
I'll hold him to that. Okay, that is it for city staff this evening. Commission, are there any items you wish to discuss?
Mr. President,
Mr. Oderman.
I wanted to ask city staff, maybe Linda or Dustin, whether or not we've had anybody approach us, the city, in regards to, well, maybe Josh, you as well, about TIF financing projects, or if that's been something that's been pursued by anybody or asked about.
Mr. Commissioner Oderman, I have been dealing with one developer, back and forth communication. He has been one that has been in front of the city commission in the past, and ongoing discussions have occurred, which does involve a TIF.
Okay.
For one of his projects. He recently just sent us some information to the city, waiting for review, but I am currently working on one. That request might be coming.
And what are we doing, if anything, to like promote that or talk about it? Because I mean, when we bring it up at commission meetings, maybe it'll be in the paper or something like that. But what do we have out there that really kind of promotes that option for developers? Because like we talked about a couple minutes ago, it's expensive to develop anything right now, and
Or even promote the Renaissance Zone.
yeah, and so yeah, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a lot of, I think, really good incentives and development opportunities for people, but what do we do to like kind of get that out there for people so that they're aware of it?
That is correct. I think we can do a better job, and one way might be when we revamp our new design of our website, that we have a development section in there that can lay out some of them options to them. Then also, partnering with Dark County Development so they also are aware of that and help utilize that as a tool for development in our community.
Okay, and I'm sure a city planner will help with that too, right?
That would definitely help.
Yeah.
This is kind of more of a one-time touch point kind of thing, but I am presenting at the Southwest North Dakota Professional Land Surveyors Association conference on Thursday. And what I'll largely be talking about is the community development team within the city, some process changes, and that's certainly something I could add to that presentation. I actually haven't put that together. I just got some ideas in my head so far.
All right. Good.
Same presentation later on in February to the Realtors Association. Similar or almost identical topics. So I can bring that up as well.
Like for the local realtor or the statewide one?
Local.
Okay, good.
Commissioners, I would just add to that I did get contacted today about a new development that was looking at TIF in our ETZ zone
Okay.
and stuff. It doesn't apply there, but and that came through Stark Development, so that came. So they are promoting it. So Ryan does have a pretty good understanding of what that TIF is, and stuff. So he does contact me if there is something that we can do. So.
Well, and that's I think when something like that happens, that's an opportunity for city staff to contact the county and say, hey, this is something that people are interested in pursuing. Is this something that the county is interested in developing? in terms of their own tax structure. So, thank you.
All right, anything else, commissioners? Not, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned.